Let's try some. Ah dear, I hate this thing. Right, so my cord material from America arrived. I'm just gonna check see if it's gone live because I don't know. Let's see. Oh, messing about with this thing. Just messing about with my browser again. Let's just do a check. Yeah, I'm live. Yay! It's just sort of the first one anyway. Good. Right. So what I've done is it's this nano crystalline material which is expensive to buy apparently. I've been looking on the internet and it's not cheap. So what I've done is, if I can get it, oh, this bloody thing at the bottom stuck to it. Hang on, it's just friction. It's heavy. I've got acetone in here, so I've got a lot of acetone and I'm soaking the varnish off it because it's stuck together with varnish, and so I can peel the steel laminations. They're actually orientated differently to normal laminations. They're actually wrapped, not like they're not oh, they're not layered this way. They're actually wrapped around that way, so the orientation's different with this material, as you can probably see. I don't know if I can get the light on it. Oops, it's kind of wrapped a bit like an onion, I suppose. Yeah, it's like an onion the way the laminations are. So you can't see it very well. It's inside this plastic container and it's a bit opaque and it's hard to see, but I've had to seal it. It's got a rubber seal on the top all the way around and it's clamped down so that the acetone can't leak out, because we don't want to be breathing fumes. And it's inside here, and I'm probably going to have to leave that in there for about 24 hours because it takes a long time for this for the acetone to be able to get between the layers of the onion, so to speak, to loosen up the material so I can peel it all back and take it and strip it out and whatever. I don't want to damage it, you see, so acetone is the best way of doing it, really, to dissolve the bonding agents that they've used, which is this varnishy stuff. And you can tell it's soaking the varnish off, because if I put it at an angle, you can see how cloudy it is. Look how you can see that the acetone has got this like a brown colour discoloration in the liquid, and that's as it soaks the varnish. I'm hoping it's soaking it off anyway. It better be, otherwise if it's not, it's just muck. Well, I certainly hope it's working, because otherwise I don't know what else I could use to soak it with. Well, yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. Apparently it's easy enough to peel the layers off, but yeah, I've got to decide on how to cut this and how to cut it. I'm probably going to have to use my metal shears at some point to line it all up, or score it with a knife or something, but I've got to, there's not enough material in that section alone to do both sides of my, if I was to do the corners and do the secondary stages for the cores, I need to split this into two sections so that we've got two effective E's instead of just one. You know what I mean? Well, it's got to be cut in such a way. I mean, yeah, I could cut it all in one go while it's in one big block. I could stick it in the vise, I suppose, and cut it with a hacksaw, but I don't know. That might be a bit messy, but I'll see later when. Sorry, I've got a thing in my mouth. Can't talk with this thing in my mouth. It's getting in my tongue. Right, so yeah, it's the nicotine thing. Right, so what I was going to do is soak it and then decide to peel it back. I might just take one layer off to see what it's like, to get a feel for it, see how soft it is and everything, and my fingers, and work out the easiest way of cutting this material. Well, not to peel it all back, cut it separately, individual layer by layer, which might actually take longer, or to leave the whole thing in the vise and use a hacksaw and cut all the way through. I mean, it might actually be practical to use a hacksaw, really, to be honest with you, to do it all in one go, because I've got to split this, so I've got 2 E's instead of 1, so I've got enough material. Because the way it's laid out, if you don't know if you can see this, let me get some light on it. Hang on a minute. Let's see if I can get the light on it. If you look, you can see that the back, there's some stuff that goes all the way around the back. I'm showing the torch on it all the way. It goes right from that end all the way around. Oops, light's not on it. All the way around. It comes all the way around the front, and then there's 2 separate sections that are like little in the middle. There's one there, and there's, can't get my torch on it properly. You can see it's basically 3 sections there. There's an outer section, and then there's 2 inside sections. So the inside sections are going to come out separately. So I'm going to have to peel those back first, really. Get those inside sections out, and then work on the outside section separately. That's what I'm probably going to do. Yeah, so you get an idea that this material is it's basically made out of 3 blocks. There's an outer block, then there's 2 inside blocks. So yeah, I want to work on them separately, really, so I don't mess things up. Because I've already been thinking about this last few days about how to use this, how to cut it, whatever. And the safest way would be to work on the outside section first. It's the longest piece, is the outside. It's the longest bit that really I could use for making. It's going to be narrower than what I've actually got on my device at the moment. It's going to be a bit narrower than the width of this, so it's going to actually be a little bit, which is more effective, less lossy. So it should be all right. But I've got to work out because it's got to go on both the bottom section and the top section. So it's going to be a bit of a headache working it all out, but yeah, we'll get there. So I just thought I'd share that. Right, okay, back later. Oh yeah, there was something else I was going to talk to. I did put something in the description about the behaviour of my device, and I said in the comments in the previous video, I might, if I don't forget, well, but our understanding what's going on with it, when there's no load on this device, what's happening is the capacitors which I've got across the output coils and the input coil, the input actuation, when there's no load on it, the capacitors are charged up in one polarization in one cycle, say the positive cycle. And if there's no load to discharge those capacitors, then that capacitance that's stored in there when there's no load actually adds to a loading effect on the reverse phase. So when the phase is on a negative cycle, it's having to discharge those capacitors again. So this is why we're seeing this strange effect where when there's a load on it, it's consuming less current, because the capacitors are, when there's no load on it, are actually still charged. So it's having to reverse bias the capacitors. So that's why we're seeing less current on the input when there's a load on it, because the load is discharging the capacitors. So the power that's going in on the oscillation doesn't have to discharge the capacitors, because they've already been discharged through the load when there's a load there on the previous cycle. So this is what's going on. So ultimately, with these current configuration, and the other issue is my bridge diodes. These things, these full wave bridge rectifiers, are all there. They don't respond very well to high frequency, which is why I've got to have a capacitor there on the, well, you can see I've got 2 there, one there, one there. I've got to have these capacitors to store that pulse of energy that's coming through the output coils, to smooth it out so that the bridge rectifiers can actually absorb, can send that power back through this into the DC system. Well, ideally what I really want to do is get some high frequency diodes, high frequency switching diodes, either some possibly Schottky diodes or something, but Schottky diodes are not ideal even, but they need to be Schottky because of the current and the low voltage drop and all that stuff. But so I was doing some thinking about this, so I am looking at the moment. I am looking for some taking this thing out my mouth, it's just too much nicotine on it. So what I'm looking at the moment is some bridge rectifiers. If anybody else has any suggestions of suitable bridge rectifiers, they need to be fairly decent high voltage, at least 200 volts really rating, but just so I don't blow them up by high voltage surges and stuff. But because my coils are capable of sending quite high voltage pulses, you know, when there's no load there. So what I've got to do is find some better bridge rectifiers at some point. I'm not saying I'm doing that next. At some point I will have to do, but so what we're going to look at is higher frequency rectification. Also I need to look at doing away with this capacitor loading effect, because it's actually been a little bit detrimental to the efficiency because of the fact that when there's no load there, I'm charging up these capacitors on the output stages and they're holding the voltage there, which is acting as a big buffer when the phase shifts. So the phase is coming in on the reverse cycle and it's bashing into this voltage that's stored on these capacitors, which is actually causing me to lose efficiency on the input drive circuit. So that's something I was been thinking about last few days, because I had to work it out in my head about it. But not only if there's a load on it, if there's a constant load on these capacitors don't become an issue. They're really not an issue at all. It's only if the load is intermittent or it's variable. When the load is start to come off slowly as a battery charges, for example, or supercapacitors are charging, as the load is coming off, the capacitors act as a load themselves. So that's not ideal. So anyway, I just thought I'd explain that, because it's important to know about this sort of stuff, because about the behaviour. And it's a fact. It's not a theory. It's a fact that this is what's going on. You know, regarding the capacitors being charged and everything, and also the fact that the diodes aren't higher frequency switching enough. That's all factual stuff. It's all stuff you can look up on the internet about high speed diode switching. I mean, it's a basic electronics thing, but I kind of forgot about it because I'm getting old and my memory is not as good as it used to be, and I'm thinking back to years ago and it kind of came back to me. I thought, oh, I know what's going on. You know, I remembered. You know, it's not my theory. It's just something I remembered after thinking a lot about it. I thought, well, why is it doing that? Why is my current going up when there's no load on it? And then I kind of remembered. I thought, I know why. It's because the capacitors aren't being discharged for the load, so they've actually got a reverse voltage. It's a bit like getting a battery. If you get a battery and you reverse polarize it, and you're basically shorting one battery against another battery, you obviously get the same problem. You have a short, you know. So if you get two batteries in series and you actually wire them the wrong way around, where the negative is going to the positive of the battery on both ends, you have a short circuit and you blow the batteries up, don't you? Well, it's the same effect with these capacitors. If they've got a reverse bias on them, you're going to get a load effect, which is what's happening. So anyway, I thought I'd explain all that because it's very important to know that. But anyway, at least the core materials arrive safely. Oops, I'm covering the lens up. At least the core materials arrive safely, and as I say, it's going to be probably 24 hours, maybe longer. I don't know how long. I'll be able to judge how much varnish has come off by the colour of the acetone. I mean, it doesn't look very dirty right now. It's not very cloudy, so I'll be able to tell how much of the varnish has come off. And if it hasn't come off, then I'm going to have to find another way of getting it off, because this varnish might be acetone resistant. I don't know. Actually, let me just take the lid off a minute. I don't want to get it on. I want to feel if this varnish is sticky. I don't want to melt my phone because this stuff is strong. hasn't even taken the writing off. Look, the writing's not even smudged. So it might not actually be working. I don't know. I'm going to put the lid back on. God, that stinks. Right. The writing has not even come off on my finger, so this acetone might not be touching it. If that's the case, then I'm going to have to do it the old way, the old-fashioned way, which is basically prise it apart or something with a knife or something, because I don't know if it's melting the varnish. It doesn't appear. I don't know if it is or not. I can turn it over and have a look on the other side, but let me just. I'll take this lid off one more time, because let's take it out a minute. I'm just going to grab this thing. Right, let's take it all out. Oh, put this lid on. God, it stinks. It dries pretty quick. Look at that. Oh, look at the varnish. Right, I've taken it out now. Look, you can see the varnish on there, and it's not. I'm using my fingernail. That's been soaked. That's been sitting in pure acetone, and that varnish has not budged. I'm going to have to use a knife to scrape this off, I think. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'm going to end the stream. I'm going to put this back in if it's. I'm going to try scraping some of this varnish off with a knife. I can't do it while I'm holding the phone. So, thank you for watching. Bye for now.